hypocrisy which exists in the system. A Saudi Arabia-led coalition bombs Yemen, bombs the Houthis, and kills more than 300. Have you seen a shutdown in a US campus? No. Scratch a Palestinian and then see what happens. This is the power of mainstream media and social media. You always have the victim card to play. And is there a better card in the world than the victim card? There isn't. And this is exactly what the Hamas has been doing. You can see the effect in American campuses. The capital of Israel, they launched missiles at Tel Aviv. And this is the first time it's happened ever since the war broke out. Launching missiles directly at Tel Aviv. And there has not been a case of such an emergency in Tel Aviv in the recent past. When I say the recent past, I mean the past few months. And this was triggered by, as I mentioned, Hamas rocket firing. The Israelis managed to shoot most of them down, and there was almost no damage or death as far as Israel is concerned. But when Israel hit back in Rafah, they hit back very hard. People died, and then the Hamas propaganda wing started getting active, that Israel has killed people, Israel has killed people, it has killed innocents. This is exactly how the Palestinian mind behaves. A lot of people from the US, from UK, well-meaning people, I'm not blaming them, well-meaning people, they've told me that, Major, you're too overtly critical of the Palestinian people, and they've suffered and all that. I'm not saying they haven't suffered. Nobody is saying that the Palestinians have not suffered. If it isn't Jewish hatred, why aren't people talking about the genocide in Yemen? Why are you not talking about it? I wish to understand. How many people have died in Ukraine? Russia invaded. Whatever the reasons. The truth is that Russia invaded Ukraine. The truth is that many hundreds, hundreds of thousands or millions of Ukrainians have been displaced. They can no longer go back home. Cities have been flattened. Tens of thousands have been killed. Have you seen a shutdown in a US campus? No. It doesn't matter. Scratch a Palestinian. Just scratch a Palestinian and then see what happens. This is the power of propaganda, my friends. This is the power of mainstream media and social media. They'll make you think that Israel's war against Hamas is the biggest tragedy, which has ever happened on the face of this earth, because Palestinians are involved. But there are killings more than 10 times greater, and nobody will even discuss them, because the Jews are not involved. Any professional military force will keep its camp away from civilian population because their aim is to avoid collateral damage either way. That is their primary aim, all professional armies. But Hamas are terrorists. The Hezbollah are terrorists. They're nothing but terrorists. So what happens in their case? What happens there is that they build their strongholds right inside heavily populated areas like near shopping malls or schools or old age homes or hospitals, or refugee camps. Right in the middle of a refugee camp, you'll have a Hamas headquarters. So they'll bomb the Israelis. When the Israelis bomb back that very same exact location, you always have the victim card to play. And is there a better card in the world than the victim card? There isn't. And this is exactly what the Hamas has been doing. You can see the effect in American campuses, where those students, those young American students, most of them, actually believe that something wrong is going on. I just hope Trump comes back to power. Whatever damage he might cause to the United States or otherwise, I don't care about. I only care about one thing. Trump promised that the day he comes to power, the first thing he's going to do is throw out all these students from the universities, all these overseas students who are part of the protests, and send them home. That is what they should do. America today realizes that people will get weapons. You see, just because you feel moral outrage or selective moral outrage on certain issues and not on others, it's not going to stop any country from getting weapons. Case in point here, ladies and gentlemen, is Saudi Arabia. A few years back, America put a ban on offensive weapons. I don't know what is meant by offensive weapons, but this is what the media is saying. All weapons are offensive in nature. So they put a ban on quote-unquote offensive weapons, or the sale thereof, to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because they felt that Saudi led an alliance which killed a lot of people in Yemen. And this was a multinational alliance, and they bombed Yemen and they killed the Houthis. And America said, not done, and we are shutting down arms supply to you, and we are not going to supply weapons to you. Very recently, as recent as yesterday, an American politician, a Republican, went to Taiwan promising them the earth and the moon, and he said, sure, yes, we'll give you Stinger missiles, anything that can help you counter China. And then immediately comes this news that America says, okay, Saudi Arabia, we will give you weapons. Now, nobody's protesting. Nobody's protesting, and people are saying, okay, if Saudi Arabia gets weapons, how does it matter? But let me also tell you that more than 300,000 people died in Yemen. 300,000 people. 300,000 people die in Yemen, and America says, we are happy to give you weapons. And sure, why not? Saudi has the money, America has the weapons. Go. Sell whatever you want, and it's absolutely okay with me. I'm not making a moral judgment here. But the number of people who died in Yemen, 10% of those died in Gaza. And that too after a terror strike. Just 10% of those numbers died in Gaza, and everybody, there is this sense of uproar that morally something has gone wrong. And all the students are protesting. They're out in protests. They're protesting, in their colleges across the United States of America, 50 campuses. Now, of course, they've died down. But all these students, you should get these students and say, do you know that the Saudi-led coalition has killed more than 300,000 people? They don't care. The US felt it could ditch Saudi Arabia. It ditched Saudi Arabia. I'm telling you, in this entire thing, the victim is Saudi Arabia. It is not America. America will use and throw. It used and tried to, say that we will make Saudi Arabia a pariah state. How can you do that? Saudi Arabia is the leader of the Muslim world. The king is the keeper of the two holy mosques. That country is floating. They have less sand, more oil. They are a strategically extremely significant country. How can you make Saudi Arabia a pariah state? Have you succeeded in 3 years? And now suddenly you find that Russia has invaded Ukraine, the geopolitical tables have turned, and now suddenly America is singing a different tune. This is the kind of hypocrisy that I'm against. If you want to attack people, and if that is your national policy, do it. At least Putin is very clear. Putin is extremely clear. He might be doing something wrong, but at least he's not a hypocrite. It was a major celebration in the country because after a very long time, we had received aircrafts. Now the Indian Air Force has 36 of them. 2 squadrons absolutely stationed, ready for war whenever China or Pakistan decides that they want to up the ante, as they say. Now, why am I talking about this today? Because the Rafale team is again in New Delhi. This team has come from France, naturally. It is a team from Dassault Aviation, and the deal here is a big 50,000 crore rupee deal for 26 Rafale Ms. What is the Rafale M? Ladies and gentlemen, the Rafale M is the marine version or the naval version of the Rafale fighter jets. This is a 4.5 or 4.5 generation fighter jet, which is extremely effective, and there were 2 jets in the reckoning for this contract. 2 jets. One was the F-18. F-18 is an American jet, widely used on American aircraft carriers, an excellent piece of machinery. There is no doubt. Nobody is saying that the F-18 is bad. No, it's absolutely outstanding. Then this begs the question, why did the Indian Navy go for the Rafale M? What is the reason? There are 2 things. First of all, in our geographic and geopolitical context, the Indian Navy felt that the Rafale M was a better deal than the F-18 fighters. That is one. The second thing is, of course, the Indian Navy was also looking at commonality of parts. Now, what is commonality of parts? You're aware that 36 Rafale fighters are currently operational with the Indian Air Force. And my sources tell me that more are coming. More are coming as far as the Air Force is concerned. But currently we're talking about the Navy, so I'm going to stick to the Navy. The Navy feels that they have, or they're going to have 26 fighters of Rafale, right? Air Force already has 36, which means that there is commonality of parts, which means that when you talk about jointness in a sense, I'm not talking about operations here, I'm talking about maintenance here, it is cheaper to maintain aircrafts because then you have common parts. 80% of both these aircrafts are exactly the same. Manufactured, of course, by the famous Dassault Aviation, it is a versatile single-seat aircraft capable of performing a series of missions including air defense, nuclear deterrence, deep strikes, and reconnaissance missions. So I repeat, air defense, which is if other fighters come inside our territory, they can do air defense work. Nuclear deterrence, we all know what that means. Deep strikes, going deep inside China, deep inside Pakistan, or inside enemy territory and taking out targets there, and reconnaissance. So you have a regular recce flight in which the pilot goes and he finds out what is happening and he reports back, and he has radars and he has cameras, etc., etc. Right? They're possibly linked up to satellites and, really high-tech stuff going on there, finding out what's happening, capturing images of convoys, of installations, of critical installations, which can be possible targets for India. So all this also the Rafale does very successfully, and it can reach a maximum speed of 1.3 Mach. 1.3 Mach, ladies and gentlemen, is 1,389 kilometers per hour. That's fantabulous. 1,389 kilometers per hour, and operates efficiently at altitudes up to 50,000 feet above sea level. That's phenomenal. 50,000 feet above sea level, you have a Rafale flying at 1.3 Mach. Phenomenal, isn't it? And then the Rafale Marine can also perform air-to-ground and air-to-air missions simultaneously, equipped with a variety of armaments, including, and these are the names of the missiles, the Meteor, Mika, Hammer, Scalp, AM-39 Exocet missiles, laser-guided bombs, and Nexter internal cannon. So there is an internal cannon. This is a gun, and it fires at a very, very rapid rate. Most of the fighter planes have these internal guns or cannons that can fire a round at an extremely rapid rate. So this is, what is coming to India, and Dassault Aviation calls it an omni-role fighter for its versatility in diverse combat scenarios. So what is India getting? India is getting a 4.5 generation or 4.5 generation of a fighter aircraft for its Navy. Currently, what India has is the MiG-29s, again, an excellent fighter. But over a period of time, you have to upgrade. Former Republican presidential candidate and United States ambassador to the United Nations signed Israeli artillery shells. She went to Israel. She signed Israeli artillery shells with the inscription, "Finish them," during her Memorial Day visit to Israel. She signed, "Finish them." This reminds me of Kargil, where Indian bombs, they were loaded on planes. The Indian Air Force, they were loading planes, and one of the bombs, I remember I saw a heart with an arrow through it, and it said, "From Ravina Tandon to Nawaz Sharif." So this reminds me of that. With love from Ravina Tandon to Nawaz Sharif. And it was a massive bomb that the Indian Air Force was loading on their aircraft. And this moment was posted on X, Twitter, by Danny Danon on Tuesday, an Israeli parliament member and former UN ambassador who accompanied Haley on her trip. Danon documented Haley's support activities, including a visit to southern Israel after a Hamas attack that resulted in 1,200 deaths and 253 hostages. They also visited Israel's northern border town with Lebanon together. Now, obviously, you see, this whole Israel-Hamas war has divided America, cleaved America into two. A lot of religious Americans feel that because of biblical reasons. So Haley argued against withholding weapons and interfering in Israel's war efforts, stating that America should unequivocally support its ally. America needs to do, and this is what Nikki Haley says, America needs to do whatever Israel needs and stop telling them how to fight this war. You're either a friend or not a friend. Now, let me also tell you, ladies and gentlemen, essentially what this thing is that, though sad and though avoidable, there are civilian casualties in war. Unless, of course, you have a war that is a totally isolated conflict like Kargil. It's 99% only army people there, this side and that side. And maybe one odd civilian here and there, but otherwise 99.99%. But if you fight a war in areas that are habitable, in habitation, There will be civilian casualties. You cannot avoid civilian casualties. There was Israel, mandated by the United Nations, and they were attacked by the Arabs. Who can forget the 1967 war when these 5 countries got together to attack Israel? No provocation. Israel is minding its own business. 5 countries get together and they attack Israel. 5 countries. They attack Israel, and the idea is to wipe out Israel, take over Israel's land, and throw all the Jews into the sea. So that is the battle plan. And they attack Israel. Israel beats up everybody and takes over their land. And when Israel defeats them and takes over their land because they came to take Israel's land, then these people start playing the victim card. Same thing happened in 73, the Yom Kippur War. They came to take away Israel from the Jews, throw the Jews into the sea, kill everybody. And they attacked on Yom Kippur because it's a festival where Jews will not work because it's a holy day, so they don't work on that day. They attacked, and the Jews hid back. They came to capture Jewish territory, Israeli territory. Rather, they got defeated, and the Israelis captured their territory, and then they again started playing the victim card that, the Palestinians were not refugees. They were living on Israeli land. It is just that they refused to accommodate. They never accepted the Israeli state.